welcome to today's conversation. I am thrilled. I'm very, very excited to introduce you to somebody who absolutely lights me up just with her smile. She has created something that has really taken over the globe. This is the beautiful Hannah Charlotte. Hannah Charlotte has this incredible business called Globe Fit. She has also created and hosted and run the World Championship hula hooping World Championships, is that right? And also has an incredible mentoring and coaching brand called Jumping Through Hoops. She really is the epitome of a manifesting generator. She has a number of different arms, or should I say, hoops spinning at any one time. And I'm really, really excited to go into this conversation today with You Are the Medicine, with the gorgeous Hannah Charlotte. Welcome. How are you today, Hannah?
Yeah, really good. Thank you for that little intro. That was a good one.
It's always
Yeah.
exciting to try and get it all in.
Yeah, no, it's great to be here chatting with you. And, likewise, obviously, when I met you and I think it was back in the summer, wasn't it? Last year, it was part of our AFE group that we have that meet up in London sometimes. And your energy was just, you walk into the room and it was just like, this lady's really cool.
Yeah, beautiful that day. We hit it off. There was a little spark, wasn't there? Quite exciting in my heart. And I'm really excited to kind of bring your energy into this conversation, because one of the things that I love to do is to showcase stories that really fit in with the pillars that I love to work with astrology and human design and the gene keys, but just generally the hero's journey, the heroine's journey, as we now call it. This wounds to wisdom to wealth, this trajectory that our generation seem to be really capitalizing on, for want of a better word. And I don't mean that just by money, but also literally our health, our wealth, our abundance, our joy, and the fulfillment of life. And it struck me massively when we asked you, what do you do, Hannah? She's like, I hula hoop. Do you hula hoop? I hula hoop. And I'm like, oh my God. So start there. Tell us about who is Hannah Charlotte.
Yeah, so I mean, I tend to go by the name still, actually, of Hula Hannah. A lot of people, they see me out and about, and that's Hula Hannah. That's kind of how I started. I would say on my whole business journey. And it's taken me on loads of other journeys as well. So prior to hula hooping, I was cabin crew. I worked for a long haul airline. I was training to become a pilot. That was going to be my journey, my route, I suppose. And then I got pregnant with my first child, ended up splitting up with her dad. All kind of went wrong. That was kind of my, almost, when I look back, as like a defining moment in life. Like my whole world was shaken up around that point. That was about 2009, that was. And found myself as a single mum, no longer going to be getting married, no longer didn't have the funds to afford to finish my pilot training at the time. And I was kind of at the point where it was like, is this going to be my life? And now, just what am I going to do? Like, this can't be my story. So I just rewind back again. I started my first business, actually, that I then began was I began a beauty business. I started painting nails, doing eyelashes and things like that. And I built that business over the course of about 2-3 years. It kind of got so big I had to outsource it, and then I stepped out. It wasn't really my passion. It was basically something that it was a means to an end, almost. Like I had to do something with my life. And at that point, just before I met my current husband now, and we went on to have two children, there was, I suppose I had this bit of like an awakening moment where this is where I discovered the hula hoop, I suppose. And there was just, one night my daughter was crying, she was teething, and it was, you know, if you've been a parent, you raise children, you know what it's like, that those moments when you look back, you think it's the end of the world. It's like, can't cope with this anymore. And I wasn't very confident in my body. I wanted to get fit again after having a child. Couldn't afford a gym, didn't have any time, didn't have any childcare. So at the time, I think what I did is I Googled, like, oh, how can I tone up my core area? And this YouTube tutorial came up of someone hula hooping. And I was like, well, this looks interesting. I wonder if I can afford to get a hula hoop. So I was looking like what hoops I'd need. And on eBay, I bought myself a secondhand hoop. Arrived in the post, this big hoop. And in the evenings when my daughter would go to sleep, I would just stand in my lounge and I would hula hoop in front of the TV. And it was, at the time, it was just a fitness tool. But when I look back, I realize it wasn't just a fitness tool at all. It was helping me. It was, trying to explain it's quite difficult, but it is a very meditative tool. If you think about that rhythm, that circular rhythm, and not just that, you know, I uncovered a whole world of tricks and different moves that you could do with a hula hoop, and I would play music in the evenings and I would just start flowing almost with a hoop. You know, I danced before when I was a kid. I loved dancing, and sometimes I would just play music and dance, you know, like you do around a kitchen. And I started to do that with the hula hoop as well. And something just shifted at that point. And now obviously I look back and now I have the knowledge that I do, I realized that was the very first stage of an awakening for me. It was the very first stage of a healing journey for me, and it was about to take me on a whole different path through business as well, which is when I went into my daughter's school one day and I said, oh, you know, would the kids like a little hula hoop taster class? I've been learning to hoop. Would they like a class after school? Teacher, yeah, go for it. You know, kids loved it, absolutely loved it. So there, can we do an after school club here? Brilliant. I just started a weekly after school club at my daughter's school, with the kids turning up, loving all the tricks, all the circus stuff, dancing with the hoop as well. And then I started teaching an adults fitness class in my local village hall. And I had no idea what I was really doing. I had run a business before, so I was talking about the salon, the beauty stuff. However, I'd never really ventured into fitness, or I didn't really know what I was doing here. And I just put it out on Facebook, I think at the time, that I was starting this class, turn up. And there was this massive queue out the door. Like, I couldn't get everyone in this room.
Amazing.
I didn't even have enough hoops, you know. It was like I made them all in the kitchen at the time. I'd buy all the plastic from B&Q and I'd make them. I'd have to heat them up with a hairdryer to get the little connectors in and decorate them. And it was it just took off. It just bloomed basically from there. Because it was quite a niche thing at the time, there wasn't a lot around. There was a lot of demand, but there wasn't enough supply. So this is where I then over time I wrote an instructor training course, and then other people basically trained to become hoop teachers with me, and they went out to other schools, and we branched out across the UK. And the instructor training is now, it's a franchise as well. People have taken it. I think we've sold probably around 600 worldwide.
Wow. Wow.
You know, there's teaching it from the States to Australia, China, and yeah, the UK is obviously the main hub. And from there, so many other doors of opportunity opened, and this is where my brand GlobeFit sort of really did take off. Then we started to offer children's holiday clubs, which started initially with just hula hooping clubs, but then childcare is, you know, we get kids coming who didn't want to just do hula hooping, so we then start to add other things, other elements to it, and now that's a global brand as well. It's a childcare franchise. So it's yeah, it kind of, this all started just from the hula hoop in my lounge in front of the TV. And as I say, you know, not just from the business perspective, it has taken me personally on a whole journey of healing myself as well, from a lot of things that I never really realized I even needed to heal from. And you know, I'm actually creating a whole program now around somatic practice, using the hula hoop as a way to heal the body, and obviously the mind as well. So yeah, that's in a nutshell.
How many nutshells have we got? I mean, it's exciting to hear it. It's this story of success that comes from a need, a genuine need of a mother to be like, I need to turn up. I need some time. I need to get my head, in my own little space. And I kind of, as I hear your story, as I'm feeling into it, it's just such a natural rhythm of curiosity, and there's no ego in there. Like, I'm going to make a business out of this. Do you want to play hula hoops with me today? Um, you know, or would you like it if I taught you how to teach other people? There's a real, genuine, curious, open kind of path. And what I'm hearing from the story, what I'm loving, and I'm hoping everyone else is hearing, is we're now all the way back to the beginning of the hoop, which is, I'm now actually going to teach you the true wisdom of the hoop, the somatic wisdom that potentially is dropped in. It was not, as you said, as you were going along, I now realize as I look back that that's what was happening for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't have had the knowledge at the time of what it was actually doing. When there was a bit of ego involved in the beginning. It was, when I was thinking it was about how I was going to look. I wanted to tone up. I wanted this fitness tool to help me look good. And as I said, it opened a whole new world for me. And I did a lot of research on where the hoop actually originated from, and it's originated in Native Americans use it as their main dance. Actually, fitness, not a fitness tool. It's they dance with the wooden hoops, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, I think. And actually, there was a lady, Kerry Sudbury, her name is, and she's based in Bristol. I'll give her a mention because she is a massive advocate for the Native American community, and making sure that hoopers now know and have that knowledge of where it did originate from.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting her because back in 2019, this is when the Hoop Championships started. It initially was the UK Hoop Championships, and it was based on the south coast of south of England. And Kerry walks in with all these hoops, and she's like, "I've turned up for the Hoop Championships. Can I enter? I want to do the props category. I'm a Native American hoop dancer." Like, this is amazing. This is so amazing. And she just opened my eyes, and obviously taught me a lot about obviously the origins of it. And from there, 2020, obviously COVID hit, couldn't do an in-person event, so took it online and became the World Hula Hoop Championships. And we're now in like the third year of that. So 2023, the third year of the World Hoop Championships now. But going back to the origins of it, I wouldn't have known any of this at the time, but just sort of doing digging and research on and how it's used. It's known as a flow art. It's a tool for tapping into creativity. And also, as I mentioned earlier, it's a very meditative tool, which at the time, rewinding back to 2009, I didn't know that's what I was doing. I didn't know anything about meditation. I didn't know anything about spirituality. I was not in touch with that at all at the time. But what I now know is when I was standing there in front of the TV, or I was there with my music and I was dancing with the hoop and I was just in a flow, what I now know to be is that was a meditative state that I was putting myself in, and that was starting to spur on that creativity. That was, I suppose, when I look back and GlowFit, how it was all built on that creativity that was being kind of almost awakened inside me. And now obviously I know that's like the Kundalini energy, that it resides in the base of the spine, and that was the area of the body that I was moving. It was starting to rise in me, and over the course of the last decade, it has that creativity, and now I use the hoop. One of them hoops.
Here's the hoop.
when I'm sort of in a bit of a funk, I suppose, and I need to I want to stir up a bit of creativity and I'm trying to sort of meditate on something, I'll pick up my hoop, I'll put my music on, and I will just dance with that hoop. And afterwards, it's almost, that's how I channel. That's how things come through me. Mm.
Oh, everyone's listening to this and getting all excited. I can already hear the tapping of how do I order my hoop? Where do I learn this? You know, this. So to kind of like bring back what you just said there, you know, the work that I do is very linked to the Native American earth wisdom and the sacred hoop, and I love that. You know, there is a deeper connection to the somatics and to spirituality and to source through this energy, and also to kind of land with the people listening that you don't always have to be spiritual. You don't always have to know what it is that you're actually doing. Just enjoy yourself, because that is life flowing through you. And I've seen these dancers, and if you haven't, go and check it out. They are magnificent. Like you said, they create with lots of different hoops, different animals and movements, and it's just so inspiring. And part of the work of all of us really is that hoop of life, is that cycle, that, you know, those rhythms. And I love that you talk about, you know, you moving your body. You didn't intellectually go and be like, I'm going to go and rise my kundalini now. Just occurred naturally and with humility and with grace. And I feel like that's the energy that seems to be coming through, this golden thread that is moving through for you. So with that, you know, the energy of these conversations are, you are the medicine. And we can bring that back to, I am my own medicine. And my wider context is, we are the medicine. You know, as a collective, we are here. You mentioned the word awakening. You know, we're awakening up to something, whatever that thing is. And it seems to be that we have a lot more power in our bodies, in our minds, and in our projection of how we create than potentially we've known for a long time in humanity, in humanitarian history, or at least recorded history. Where do you see this as, you know, this medicine for you first? Well, we can see it in your story, but then out to the rest of the world. What can you see and feel, I suppose, from this hoop? What's coming through you as medicine right now?
Yeah, so I would say with the hoop, what it actually does is it really helps you tap into that inner child inside you. So and this is where, you know, I have realized that play and tapping back into that is so important. As adults, we lose that, don't we? We completely lose that. And what the hoop has allowed me to do, and others, is to tap back into that inner child, which often we need to heal. And, you know, when we talk about inner child healing, for me, I have found the hoop as it is one of the most fun fun ways to be able to do that. And also, it's not the pressure of, when I've helped people in the past and I've brought the hoop in as a tool to do that, there's no pressure there. It's not like I don't get them to sit there and do visualizations as such if they're new to it and they find that's a little bit, you know, I'm not quite ready for this sort of thing. We get the hoop out and we bring in play. And just by tapping into that play, they can go away with that hoop like I do and put the music on in my kitchen in the evenings, and I can tap into the inner child that way without the pressure. And it's what it does, as I said, you know, it's stirring up that creativity, it's tapping into the inner child, it's removing the energetic blocks that we get stuck in the body, you know. And the more I have learned about healing past traumas and things, like especially myself and what I've experienced in my life, you know, especially women, for example, that have gone through sexual trauma, what the hoop can do is, with that motion in the hips, okay, where often sexual trauma gets trapped, it shifts it and it moves it and it gets it out of the body. And this is where we talk about the somatic practice of it. And at that time, going back, rewinding to 2000, I didn't know anything about that, but now I do. And what I'm realizing that I'm doing for myself is I'm healing. I have healed myself. I do believe that through the hoop. And now obviously I'm now able to take that aspect to other people. And, you know, initially when people look at the hula hoop, they think of it as a fitness class, and the same as what I did in the beginning. It's just a fitness tool. It's not, it's so much more. It's a fitness tool. It can do that for you too, but it's doing so much more. It's allowing you to get into that meditative state. It's allowing you to get that creative flow coming through you. It's allowing you to channel. It's allowing you to heal the body. You know, there are so many things here with, just as you say, you know, it's a simple plastic surgery.
Yeah. I love the simplicity of it. And like, you know, you said that word play, you know, it gets to be that simple. And I love that, you know, your energy is playful. You can feel it in you when you're speaking. Like, and actually I'm being inspired already. Like, how can I change my kitchen around so that I can, you know, I can get my hoop out of my music? Because like, it's an invitation. It feels simple. It feels fun. And I love that you said there's no pressure. It's just a natural energy.
It is. And I mean, you could talk, movement in general will do that for you. Any kind of movement will do it. Exercise, dancing, walking, running, anything like that that's releasing those endorphins in you, which are, you know, your happy hormone, which is also is vital. We talk about the importance of exercise for everyone, for well-being, for mental well-being, and obviously physical. But the hoop is, I think what it is, you know, if you have, and this is what I've noticed, especially when I go and teach teenage girls, and who are often very what's the word, they're not very confident, are they? You know, that age, if you think back to, I've got a 15-year-old daughter, you're not body confident. If you go in and teach a dance class and you're asking them to start dancing, they're going to be like,
yeah, look
however,
at each other and like, oh.
What the hoop does, I go in and I give them a hula hoop each. It's almost like, and I would say this is what it did for me as well, it becomes like this almost barrier, like to it's just you and the hoop, and you forget everyone else around you, because when you're dancing it's just you, just you. You've got this hoop and it's almost like a distraction for anything else that's going on. You forget what everyone else is doing because it just does something. It's like, as I said, it's almost like a protective barrier.
I was going to say, it feels like your safety energy.
Exactly that. And you just watch things change when as I say, when I teach teenage girls, especially, you give them a hoop, they all start giggling again. They're like kids. They suddenly start becoming more confident. They don't care what they're laughing at each other, but they're not in a way where it'd be like if they're dancing, you know, it's like they're having fun. And the amount of festivals that I've gone to and done where men would come up and pick up the hoop as well and give it a go, and they're all laughing at each other, doing it, they want to keep coming back and doing it. You know, I've had people in their 80s. My grandma, actually, just before she passed away, probably about a year before, 2 years before, she was doing a hula hooping with me in her 80s, you know, in the garden. She loved it. She had one in her garage and she'd get it out. And I mean, what's so nice is that it's for anybody. And even though like people might be a bit reluctant to like, oh, try it, something new, the minute they start doing it, it's like you just forget everything else. And as I say, it's the inner child that starts coming out no matter what age you are. You just watch people's faces light up and start laughing, and you see, it's almost, you can recognize straight away that that's their inner child there. That's that part of them that needs that fun and that play, and they're getting that from something so basic.
So okay, so what my curious brain is now coming out, it's like, okay, so we've got this tool, we've got this beautiful, simple, relatively inexpensive tool, that gives you a safety energy at the same time as awakening your kundalini, your play, your inner child, the giggling, the laughter, the freedom, the confidence. What has it given you personally, you know, not just these things that it's giving the world, okay, when we engage. But you know, we met through a business network essentially. And so what I'm really excited about is that trajectory, the opportunities that this curious thread and then in, you know, this hoop gave you and is giving you and others. Talk to us about, you know, you mentioned at the beginning the network, the different, you know, the different brands, the global energy of this and the connections, the winnings, all sorts of different things that have come through for you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously for me, as I say, you know, I started out, I had to do something when I got made redundant. Obviously, couldn't become a pilot, had my daughter and everything.
I mean, that's exciting in itself, Hannah, that you were going to become a pilot. You know, from pilot to hula hoop. I was going to go around the globe one way or another. One was going to be in the sky, the other is around my hips. I love that.
Yeah.
So sorry, that's just exciting.
Yeah, it's quite a contrast, isn't it? It really is. But yeah, I never would change it now, ever. But you know, as I say, it's opened a lot of doors for me because I think it's the flow, I suppose, of what everything has flowed for me since discovering the hoop and taking it out there to others. I have found, maybe it's because of what it's done for me and helped heal certain things in me, because it's helping to stir up that creativity all the time. It
Like
has
what is it healed for you? Give us an example.
Yeah, no, of course. So for me, well, when I talk about obviously that first sort of awakening, I suppose, which I didn't realize was an awakening at the time, when I went through really like, it was a very toxic time in my life with my ex, my daughter's dad. When we broke up, we'd been together for 4 years, I think. We just we were engaged for about a year before he then went off with someone else. So I sort of found myself as the single mum. I was only 23 at the time. In that same week, I'd been made redundant from my job as well. So you know, there was things like that. But then stemming right back to I won't go into massive detail with it, but I was sexually groomed as a teenager as well. And that was something that, even though at the time I knew was wrong, and I knew that I needed to heal from that, I think because it was, you know, you're thinking 20 plus years ago, if you think about back then, it wasn't something that we would openly talk about. It wasn't something that, it was almost like, especially in the culture we're in the UK, I think it was that stiff British upper lip thing, you know, brush everything under the carpet, don't bring shame on the family, you know, like, it's like, let's not talk about this again. And when that happened, and I was 15, 16 years old, I think that sort of set the tone for me of how my relationships would go throughout my life, you know, up until today with my husband. And you know, I've had a whole series of disastrous relationships, and never really realizing that it all stemmed from that experience that I had as a teenager, and that trauma, which at the time I didn't know what that was. You know, we didn't talk about trauma and stuff, like we didn't talk about sexual, we didn't talk about any of that. Now it's obviously so openly talked about, and we know that, and now I know 100% that what happened to me was wrong. And I know that you know, I can recognize it for what it was, and I've been able to fully heal from that. And as I say, what has helped me is obviously, along with other things like therapy and other practices, the hooping has been one of the main factors in that healing journey for me. And as I say, you know, sexual trauma, which I know now, for women, a lot of the time is all stored in the hips, because obviously that's the area where it occurs to you, isn't it, as a woman? And it's that stuck energy. And what happened to me, now I look back on my series of failed, disastrous relationships, was that I had that still within me. That trauma was there, and it was that block between me having, you know, I wasn't able to have successful relationships because that needed addressing. And it wasn't really until my husband and I hit this massive sort of COVID obviously came in. I lost a lot of my business at that point, and our marriage kind of was on the rocks a little bit before that anyway. We've got 3 children. It's obviously, you know, the pressures, but lots of stuff happened around that time, and, you know, cut long story short, we almost split up. And I was like, I need to sort this out, because this is a pattern that's repeating again. This pattern with my husband is just going to, you know, it doesn't matter if it's him or someone else, the next person, this is going to repeat forever until I work out what the heck's going on here. And that's when I made all these connections. And that is what sort of has inspired me now to start writing this, creating, I should say, this healing practice for others as well, and bringing the hoop in to my coaching, my mentoring as well. I mean, I help business owners mainly. I help people that are trying to grow their businesses, scale their businesses. But, you know, I know as part of that, everything's interlinked at the end of the day. Your business, your finances, your health, your relationship, everything's interlinked. And if there's one aspect that's a little bit out there, like not quite right, the rest of it isn't going to be quite right either. Mm-hmm. So, you know, now when I work with business owners, we look at the fundamentals of everything. We set those foundations before we can start building on top of it. You know, in order for the growth to happen, success to come in the business, they've got to be doing that work on themselves first, you know, and foremost, to try and bring out any crap that's there still that needs healing. And we use a hoop for that.
Really? So, I mean, that, you know, it pulls on the heartstrings, because this unfortunately is more common than we potentially realize, you know, for young girls to have had experiences that essentially freeze, like you mentioned, in you know, that lower area, that womb ball, that we hold our sensual and sexual power in, our creative power, like you mentioned. And I'm really loving and I suppose gently aware of that this of course would help that area, because you know that's where this sexual energy is held, but that it started to give you the opportunity not only to heal yourself, your younger self, but now taking that into this new space. Talk to us more about this creation that you've got at the moment, this, as I would call it, the dharmic medicine, like the real sort of the sweeter medicine, you know, the not taking away from the incredible business and the globe fit and all of that has been created, but it feels like, as I said, it's bringing it back to you. What can we expect from this?
Yeah, so it's almost like it's done a full circle when I think about it now. You know, it started as a fitness thing, and it's like created this global brand, and now it's come back full circle back to me, I suppose, and what has helped me, and knowing that what I went through, so many other people have experienced that. You know, I speak to so many women that have almost gone through, you know, an identical experience. And you think back to how much of that was happening, and you know, still today it's happening. I mean, luckily there is more awareness around it now, and it's, you know, I've got a 15-year-old daughter, and I was at the same age as her when I went through that trauma.
Look at that timing.
Which is also, she's taught me an awful lot as well. She's taught me so much. And so that, as I say, it kind of made sense now to bring it all into something where I could really help other people, you know, the way I've helped myself, basically. So everything that I've done to help myself using this tool is basically, now I've created, it's a practice, basically. You know, I've created this practice that other people can do either with my assistance or on their own. You know, it's an online creation that I'm basically putting together now, and it takes them through the basics of just, you know, the fitness tool, and using it as a way just to tap into their inner child, going a little bit more in depth into how you can really start to shift out that stuck energy. from, and I'm talking about the hips a lot in this movement, but actually, you know, I've brought in a lot more to it, so we can really tap into that inner child and get our you know, really start to play more. So, you know, I've put in things like tricks and stuff that you can learn to do, you know, like a little bit of neck hooping, a little bit of hand hooping, a little bit of elbow hooping. There's this move called the limbo, which I won't do here, but it's like where you kind of push the hoop up towards the ceiling. There's this move called the booty where you get it going around your bum, and it's like you know,
I'm really in, by the way. I'm in for this.
It's making it a fun way to heal as well. You know, it's not taking away the seriousness of what it is, because actually, you know, it's quite a sensitive topic as well. You know, a lot of people that are coming to me to get the help, you know, it's not taken away from the fact that actually they're still, you know, trying to heal from some deep rooted trauma there, but it's making it fun, if that sounds okay to say. Like, you know, it's kind of
It does sound fun, and I think, you know, I'm curious. I'm sure everyone else listening is curious too. You know, we're talking about the wounds and what it gets to heal, and that as you start to heal unconsciously and then consciously your own wounds, we're into the wisdom. You know, okay, and now holding the wisdom of what the hoop has done for me.
yeah.
What about the wealth? You know, and I don't just mean that in the wealth as in the monetary sense. What is it bringing to you? How has it shifted your relationships with, you know, with your husband, with your children, with your business,
yeah
with the growth of the business?
yeah So I have, you know, 2 years ago, I'd be quite honest, it was, my life was a bit of a shit show. It was quite hard. I was going through an awful time, but that was the start of it all. That was the start of, like, you know, it was the shift. It was the big shift for me. It was time to face it head on and really start healing from this stuff way back in the past. And, you know, when I was able to face it and go through it all and persevere with that, and, you know, you've got to face the pain head on. What happened, this you know, I can't even explain. It sounds crazy, but my life literally just did this 180 flip. And I mean, if I talk about like the abundance that I've brought into my life now, so I mean, I'm a mother of three. I've got a 15-year-old, 11-year-old, and 6-year-old. My husband, who, you know, we were going through mediation, we were about to split up, it was horrible, and now it's almost like our relationship is renewed. It's new. It's like a new relationship. It's like we met each other all over again, because we did, because I think this happens a lot as well. Like, people, they're together for years, and until they kind of do this kind of deep inner work, they don't really know each other. You know, it's like, and we went through that apart. We went and got the help. We healed ourselves apart, and then we came together. We did it together, and it's exciting now. It's exciting. It's new. It's not. It's just completely different to what it was when we met. You know, for the first sort of 5 years. We've been married nearly 11 years now, actually. But I would say the first 5 to 10 years of our relationship, and now, you know, it's incredible, actually. You know, I wouldn't say, you know, nothing's perfect. Yes, we have our bickers. Yes, you know, that's totally normal, and that's what you need as well. But it's amazing.
Wow.
And, you know, I've seen him for a whole new person. He's seen me for a whole new person. We appreciate each other. We're so grateful for one another, and we do this together now. You know, we do it together. And my relationship with my children has gotten much better as well, especially my daughter, my oldest daughter. When I talk about abundance as well, in the way of like what I've manifested just in the last 12 months, I mean, we've traveled extensively over the last year. We've visited 8 different countries. We have, you know, we've got freedom, time freedom, financial freedom. My business is thriving, and the opportunities are just coming. Like, it's, yeah, you know, if I could go on and on telling you like how good it's got. I mean, it has, but it's almost like I had to go through that really awful time to get to this level. I had to, and now I appreciate what I went through. Like, more than anything in the world, I appreciate those moments, because I don't think I would appreciate what I now have if I hadn't gone through that. So yeah, when I talk about abundance, it's, yeah, this is a place where I never thought, rewind back to 2009 when I stood in front of that TV crying my eyes out, like, over like being dumped. You know, I never thought I'd be here now.
Just such, I mean, it's a real beautiful story. And, you know, and I want to really land it with people that it's real. It's a real story, and it's not just a fairy tale. You mentioned I had to go through some dark moments. What have you got to share with us about the journey and about the moments? You know, there's some people listening now that are in those darker moments, and they're wishing that they were able to have that relationship with their partner, their children, their business. Maybe they're only starting a business, they've got a kernel of an idea, but, you know, to make it global is just so far out of their reach. What is your deep wisdom and medicine that you get to share with us now for those people to get them to that appreciative place that you are in?
Yeah, I think, you know, I totally feel for anyone right now that is in that place, because it was only 2 years ago or so that I was on my kitchen floor in tears. My mum had to come around and pick me up off the kitchen floor. You know, it was like my world was ending. However, I think deep inside, I knew that everything was going to get better. It always does. And I think, you know, and there is this saying, isn't there? The only way is up. When you reach rock bottom, the only way is up. I don't think you always need to have that rock bottom to get the up and get the high and then get to where you want to be. I don't think you have to have it, but I think what that rock bottom does do is it really does make you appreciate when you get to where you want to get to, and when you're finally there, like, you really do, you don't take a moment for granted. I never take a day for granted now. And I suppose that's the wisdom it's given me, is that every day I'm living in complete gratitude for what I have, because I know where I was, and I know where I was back in 2009. As I say, you know, I was a single mom, benefits. I was scraping the pennies by to try and get my daughter's milk, and working all hours. I remember taking my daughter in a little car seat when I was painting people's nails and stuff. And it was just, I will never forget those moments. I will never forget them. Which is why I'm so grateful now. So what I can say, you know, to people is that, yeah, also have to trust. Like, I think that's the hardest bit, and that's the hardest thing to do, isn't it? Is to trust. But I 100% believe that the universe, God, whoever it is you believe in, has your back 100%. Like, you were always protected, you were always looked after, and everything that's happening in your life is happening because it's your, like, it's your journey. This is your story. Everything is going to make up part of your story. I mean, I'm now writing a book, actually, and I wouldn't be able to write this book had I not gone through all that stuff, you know. And it's very hard when you're in the midst of turmoil to say there's a reason for this, because it's like, what the hell's the reason? Like, why is this fair? Like, life isn't, we can say life isn't fair, but at the same time, without these stories, without these things, like, how would we be able to now help other people? You know, we wouldn't. And how would the world evolve? It wouldn't evolve, would it? We would be stuck back in caveman times if these things hadn't happened. You know, we wouldn't have evolved, like, these things. And I've accepted that these hard times come to us because we have to move forward and evolve as a world. And yeah, I mean, I would say my biggest thing, if I had to say something, it's just to trust. And yes, that's really freaking hard to do, but it's to trust, and that's all there is to it. And at the minute I started trusting and not trying to force stuff, not trying to push, you know, yes, you have to kind of do the work and be consistent with building these habits, and if you're building a business or in a relationship, whatever it is, you've got to put that work in, but you don't have to push for it. You don't have to push. You have to lean back and trust in what's unfolding for you. You trust, you're putting in the work, you're doing the things. You can't push the time frame that's going to happen. It will happen when it happens. I got so frustrated when my business didn't take off within 12 months and I wasn't a millionaire.
Yeah. Well, we know about that at the moment in the coaching space, don't we?
But 10 years, I stuck with it for 10 years. And this is GlobeFit. This is, you know, there's lots of other things that have happened since then, but GlobeFit in particular, you know, I stuck with it even through COVID, through losing a lot of the income in the business. And when we came through the other side of COVID, all these other opportunities came to me, and this business is now being valued at over $1 million. And you know, it's about to have potentially this year, which I trust, its first £1 million year. So you know, it's like I stuck at it. And that's 10 years on, and I realized I had to let go of the time frame. You can't just say it's going to happen in 3 months, it's going to happen in 12 months. It's going to happen, but take off that pressure of when it's going to happen. And the relationships as well, you know, if you're looking to have that amazing relationship, then I mean, you've both got to do some work if you want it to be amazing, and you've both got to put in those consistent steps to make it amazing. You know, it can only happen if there's two people doing that, and that's where I am blessed, because my husband was on the same page as me. You know, you've got to be on the same page there. But yeah, I mean, it's trust, let go, lean back, and trust that everything's unfolding just as it's meant to.
I mean, there's so much there, isn't there? And it is that, as you were talking, I'm feeling like you have to trust the hoop. You know, you have to trust, you know, like you mentioned, yes, you've got to do the work, but if you force it, it's not going to work. In fact, you have to lean back, you have to allow it to get its own momentum. And when it starts building its own momentum, you're dancing with it rather than making it happen. And there is, I think, a lot of the coaching industry, the mentoring industry, that regardless of where you start, you know, like mine in the shamanic areas and astrology, yours with the hoop and, you know, painting nails and flying around the world, all of that. There's this element now that has been born in the last kind of decade, but certainly just pre-COVID. That if you've been through something, you can help other people go through it. And it's like this, I see from this astrological perspective, but also from the evolution that you mentioned, that as humanity, we're helping each other. There's no longer this guru on the mountain that you go and like, you know, hello, sir, am I going to have a good relationship in my life? And they're like, I have pondered relationship. And like, have you ever actually been in one? You know, am I ever going to have, you know, children? I have pondered children. Have you? But have you ever actually had children? You know, and I feel like we are inside of this energy at the moment as our own gurus, our own wise elders, our own best medicine. And that if we can stop looking outside of ourselves, and like you mentioned, that trust to come back in and be like, right, okay, I've got it in me. I might not intellectually know what I've got in me, but I'm going to hoop in front of the telly. Or like me, I'm going to kind of read this star book, you know, or I'm going to just find something that makes me feel okay and be curious with it. You almost naturally trust when you're curious. It's not, you're not judging, you're not questioning. You are questioning, but in a kind of a, well, let's see sort of way, rather than it's got to be this way. And I feel like a lot of us in this space that have been through something significant enough that we now have the wisdom to teach other people or to impart some wisdom, are now being guided into even more of a kind of, right, well, now we want to cultivate your wisdom. Now we want to make your wisdom packaged in a way that is a business, or, you know, it's got to make 1 million, or it's got to be on social media. There's a lot of pressure that comes from that. What is your take on that kind of trajectory that's coming off? I suppose that just the beingness of helping people, you know, we've got this other trajectory.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I take off any pressure on myself. Like, you know, I definitely have goals that I work towards. And yes, I've put packages together with the hoop and stuff like that, but I very much trust, again, going back to this whole trust, like who are we trusting? We're trusting ourselves at the end of the
Ourselves, yeah.
day. You know? I don't, again, forcing things. And I mean, like, yeah, you're talking about this, you know, with this, especially in the coaching industry, you see it, don't you? It's all very like packaged and like, you know, and it's like selling to people's pain points and stuff like that. It's not, I don't like that at all. It doesn't resonate whatsoever with me. And I mean, I think that we're going to see that really phasing out over the next year, couple of years. I think we're going to see a lot more authenticity from people. I think people, what I see is they're trying to be something that they're not. Maybe they haven't quite found what it is that they're meant to be doing. And this is where for me it clicks, like with the I'm guilty of that. You know, probably a couple of years ago I was kind of forcing myself to kind of go on that trajectory, like you were saying, as trying to package myself as this coach and this mentor, and I wasn't like bringing the hoop into it at all. I wasn't bringing into anything of what I really was. I was effectively maybe trying to be someone that I wasn't. And I think that will only last for a certain amount of time. That cannot be sustainable. I think what's going to happen is authenticity is going to come through, and people's natural gifts are going to come through, and the natural gifts are what we're meant to be sharing at the end of the day. And you know, there's no competition there either. You know, everyone's got their natural gift, and it's like we're given that to share it, to help people. And I think we're going to hopefully, yeah, I do believe we're going to see more and more of that coming through.
I mean, that just feels so delicious, doesn't it? I kind of want us to maybe even end on that place because it feels so nice. It's that people's natural gifts, and when we're curious, when we trust, when we let it flow, when we play, you know, let the inner child come out and play, you can't help but see the natural gift arise. And you mentioned that competition there as well. I think that is the sisterhood wound, you know, the brotherhood wound, the wound of lack. You know, I don't have it, but they have it. When actually, if you're all unique, if we are all unique, if we have all got our own medicine, then there is no need to compete, and that takes away the force, doesn't it? It allows you to relax and like, my marinade will be ready when my marinade is ready.
That's it.
And it feels so soft and so certain and so relaxing.
Yeah.
I want to thank you massively for, first of all, before anything else, inspiring me, because I think I've now found my thing. I will be purchasing a hula hoop from you. Get yourself down to B&Q. You're going to make me one. And I feel like you'll probably get a lot of other people coming in from this conversation too. How do people find you? Where do we go to become a part of this incredible movement?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to find out about all my stuff together in one place is on my Instagram bio, because I've got a link on there that literally has everything that I do, because I've got various things, as I say, Globe Fit with the hoops. So Globe Fit, you can go, there's a shop on there, you can get hoops. Then I've got Jumping Through Hoops, I have a podcast as well. But yeah, the best place to find, and Facebook as well. I'm on Hannah Charlotte on Facebook, but yeah, Hannah Charlotte on Instagram is probably the best place if you're on Instagram, because then you can just go to link in my bio and everything is there in one place.
You get to see her actually hooping, which I was thinking we might be able to do on this, but we're probably a little bit cramped. And what I love is that you've got hoops behind you as well. Even your shelves are hoops.
Oh yeah. Like
Hoops everywhere. Hoops everywhere. Hannah, what an incredible conversation and what an incredible journey. You know, so inspiring from something so simple that essentially is a playground piece of equipment that brings us right back into the inner child, heals our traumas, allows us to be effervescent and joyful. And now you can see actually builds wealth, abundance, freedom, and fulfillment, all from this one curious moment.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Excuse me. I'm excited. I want to start moving straight away. So much love. Get in touch with Hannah Charlotte on Instagram. Go and let her know that you have seen this. Pop a comment on her Instagram and share. She is an incredible manifesting generator. She is a beam of light. And without a doubt, once you start hula hooping with her, you are going to heal and start creating your own abundance too. Thank you, Hannah. So much love.
Thank you.